I think that in these two very important interventions of Dave and Valentino, I learned two things. First, from Dave, not everything needs to be scaled up. There are many initiatives that are very important in themselves, and provided they are not, eventually they are not big, but they make a difference in the lives of people. And so they need our support and our engagement. But Valentino said his objective is not only to take care of the schools that he's supporting, is to have enrollment at national level for girls increase substantially. What really raises the problem of initiatives that need to be seen in a context in which a scale-up is possible. Now, why is scaling up so difficult in these environments, in post-conflict situations? Because we have a combination of two factors. Normally, poor governance and a dysfunctional work of the international community. Poor governance, because obviously we have sometimes unstable political situations, a skeletal administration, sometimes a heritage of corruption from the past, lots of difficulties of the new authorities to run the country. But also the international community being very dysfunctional. Dysfunctional between conflict and post-conflict interventions, between humanitarian aid and development support, two different cultures, two different approaches, a gap sometimes in between, very difficult to link things and to create continuity in projects that take place in the country. And also an international community that sometimes is dysfunctional because of interests that are conflicting. I mean, look at DRC, the Democratic Republic of Congo, look at their natural resources, their minerals, and how the international community has been acting in a way that doesn't help to preserve peace in a country where this competition for these natural resources has triggered different militias, different groups fighting each other around the country to serve the interests of those that from the outside will try to make a profit out of those materials that are essential, by the way, for instance, for my mobile phone. So this dysfunctionality of the international community, together with the poor governance, makes it very difficult to scale up initiatives. I would like to give 4 very obvious suggestions to try to improve the situation. First is to give absolute priority to investing in people. We all love to do things, and to do things for people. But that's not what matters. What matters is to help people help themselves. I remember with the Portuguese electrical company, we were doing some solar lamps in a refugee camp. Much more important than the solar lamps is the training of people to be able to repair them and to maintain them, and if possible to help them through microcredit and other instruments to have small businesses doing similar things with other initiatives in the area. To invest in people is much more important than to do things, to distribute money, to do whatever sometimes we as donors or we as international agencies like to do in countries like these. Second point is to look where the bottlenecks are. A lot of investment is lost because bottlenecks are not addressed. And bottlenecks are different from country to country and from situation to situation. Sometimes it's a problem of lack of human resources, sometimes it's a problem of infrastructure, sometimes it's a problem of energy, whatever. Look at where the bottlenecks are and invest in those bottlenecks and mobilize the country to put priorities in addressing those bottlenecks that do not create an adequate environment for scaling up the kind of things that need to be scaled up, like children or girls' enrollment in school. The third observation is, whenever possible, use the market or market-like instruments. We are operating now in Somalia, and some areas in Somalia are controlled by Shabab. There is famine in those areas, and the WFP is not allowed to distribute food in those areas by Shabab. Now, there was a discussion with our partners. We have some partners that work in those areas, whether we should be giving cash grants for people to buy food as the market works. I mean, I was in Mogadishu. There is famine in the country, but there is food in the markets because the prices went up, and so people import food, and the market is working. Now, there was a discussion, and people said, don't distribute money, because in Shabab-controlled areas, money can then be an instrument for Shabab to oppress people. So we decided to work together with some local business people and to create a mechanism of food vouchers given to people in those Shabab-controlled areas that were able to use those food vouchers with the local business community that imported food and provided food to these people. And it worked. And it can be scaled up. which means that instead of distributing food where you cannot do it, or where it can even have a negative effect, discouraging people to produce, if you can have an instrument that either is a market instrument or similar to a market instrument, if you have no conditions to use a market instrument, you create conditions in which scaling up is much more easier. And then finally, use technology, but use technology as an instrument to do things that cannot be done without it. And today, if one looks at countries like Kenya, for instance, the role of mobile phones in the financial sector is absolutely crucial. So there are easy technologies that can be used in a friendly way, but being an engineer, use technology as much as possible, but don't think that in all conditions the state-of-the-art technology is the most efficient one. Sometimes it's the technology adapted to the needs of people that is the most efficient one, like in relation to the shelves that were referred. So don't be obsessed, as engineers sometimes are, with the state-of-the-art technology, but use as much as possible technology to allow for scaling up the kind of things you want to do in these countries. And always, to the extent possible, contribute as foreigners for these countries to improve their governance. There is nothing we really can do instead of them. If they are not able to build their institutions and to make their institutions work, the international community will fail trying to replace them.